Hello boyos, Rich Boy J here back with another video, and this is going to be update number 6 of the Starkiller base mock build series, and I have some pretty cool things to show you guys this week. But before we get into it, I do want to give a very special thanks to those who donated on the live stream this week. So very special thanks to Dr. Phil, Domino Paradox, Brian Riff, brickkid, Masher2122, Bricks by Bricks, SW Bricks 75 as always, legoboycreations, and this week's top donor, Chris Blank Productions. So this week, I got a pretty good amount done on the platform, and I'm super excited about it because it's basically halfway done, which is kind of crazy to think about. But I'm happy that we're finally getting there. It's honestly maybe even more than halfway done, just because of the way that the figures are placed on it. So I'm super excited to be moving forward on that and really just converging up to that stage area, which I also did get to work on quite a bit this week. So without further ado, guys, let's jump right into the video. Actually, before we get into the mock, I wanted to show you guys the haul that I got this week. I don't typically do this with these mocks, but these parts are really just too special to pass up. But actually, before I do that, I have a question. Do you guys want to see more hauls in these videos? Would you like to see the packages that arrive and then like see what I actually do with those parts, or are you not really interested in seeing haul stuff? Let me know. I'd be interested to know how you guys felt about that. Anyways, moving on to these parts. So these are two pick-a-brick cases, and if you could read, you'll see that they are white 2x2 flat tiles, which is huge. This is not a piece that is easy to find on a pick-a-brick wall at all, ever, really. But I actually picked up these cases from a Legoland Discovery Center. I don't personally live near one, but I know someone who did, and we were able to work something out. And this is actually 1.5 cases. That one on the left is actually not full, but this is literally all they had left. What they told me is they won't even be able to get these parts on their wall anymore. It's not in their current assortment. So the fact that I was able to get these is amazing because I got them for an insane price. As you guys know, if you can find tile 2x2 tiles on the pick-a-brick wall, you're definitely coming out ahead, especially for white 2x2 tiles, because buying these used on Bricklink is not super cheap, but buying them new, which is what you'd want, especially when you're building snow and you don't want to have to worry about discoloration, the safest place to get them is from the pick-a-brick wall. And it would be super expensive to get this big of a quantity of these in new condition from Bricklink. So the fact that they had these available on that wall and that I got me a case and a half is so clutch. I'm not going to open that right now, but you can see 2x2 tiles poking out in white. Hopefully this is going to be enough for the snowed section of the mock. I'm not really going to be using these too much up front because I just don't need that much. I've been kind of grabbing like handfuls of 2x2 tiles in white, but I don't really need a ton of them for the purposes of this first platform area. But once we get to that last chunk of the mock, when we're over there by the oscillator room, where there's tons of snow, as well as like the forest where Ray and Kylo are going to be fighting, we're going to need probably each and every one of these. So I'm glad I have those on reserve. Don't have to worry about those down the line, and I'm sure future Jay will be very appreciative of that. But let's get into the actual mock. Alright guys, let's dive right into the mock. So this week I got a considerable amount of progress done on this platform. I actually got done these 3 base plates right here, which is kind of a big deal considering that up until that point I had only had I guess this row of base plates as well as the ones on the corner over there. So getting those 3 done in 1 week was actually kind of a big deal, not to brag or anything, but in all seriousness, I'm super happy with it because that basically meant that literally half of this entire platform is done. So you can see I basically will just have to continue building up to where that orange line is back there, and boom, we got ourselves a finished platform. So it's actually quite exciting. Like I said, I'm really excited to just move forward on this platform. It's not getting too dreadful, but I'm just ready to move on and really get a lot more work done on that stage over there. So to really just talk about what I did on the platform this week, you can see I continued the trend of working on the little T, the crosses where the snow is kind of settled into the cracks on the platform. And I actually did something that I thought was kind of interesting with this one. So in looking at some reference material, I actually saw that there were a few of these that were actually connected. So that's kind of what I started right there, going up to the T that'll be there. So once that one starts, there'll be not exactly connected, but mostly connected. And I think that'll actually look really cool to add a bit more detail to it and not make it look so uniform, you know, having it randomized in a sense. And that's really one of the biggest things that you want to capture when doing something like this. Obviously, there is a grid to it, so you want to stay true to that, but you don't want it to look too uniform. You didn't want for all the T's to be exact. So I've worked quite a bit to keep it looking as natural as possible. Not too random, but natural. There's a delicate balance that you have to find there, and I'm quite happy with what I ended up with. One of the big challenges behind this, like I mentioned last week, is building these up while still kind of trying to build around the squares that I've already put into this. So you can't really tell obviously here, but you can see up there just building between those squares that I've already built up with these snot patterns. It's a little bit of a challenge, but it's an interesting one. It kind of requires me to think creatively about this. It's not super straightforward, which, I mean, really, when you're building anything, you're going to run into things like that where, you know, it's not going to be straightforward. You're going to have to try to work around something. And I'm happy with what I've been able to do here. So one of the things I actually did was I moved all the TIE fighters to this side, really for no other reason than to really just finally show off this side bare, because you guys really haven't seen that yet, and also make sure that they could all fit on this side the same way they did over there, and that none of the details that are important to be seen have been hidden. So looks like my math ended up working out, which is always positive, because you never know, like the slightest oversight with Lego can end up really biting you in the butt in the long run. So I'm happy that was not the case. If you got another shot over here, you guys can see just more of the snow buildup on the side, that border, as you will. I don't know, I like it a lot. I think it was definitely a worthwhile addition to the MOC. It gives it a little bit more, I guess it just makes it more interesting to look at, as opposed to just having the gray platform just kind of pop up out of nowhere. So I'm happy with it, and it's kind of crazy to think about. At this point, I have 100% completed. Well, outside of actually placing the figures, I've basically 100% completed an entire table's worth of a MOC, which is size. That's a big MOC for most people. That is only a sixth of what this project is going to be. So that's crazy to think about. That I'm gonna have to do cover an area that's basically this size 5 more times. So you guys are in for quite the journey when it comes to this MOC. So that is the work on the platform. Outside of that, I can show you what I actually got started on for the stage. So there are a couple things that were super important for me to figure out before I even got it started on the stage. The first one, they're both really angle related. The first one you can see with this prototype I made here. Basically, the wall that kind of leads up to the stage, so there's like a wall that comes up and then there's a stage that is right on top of it. It's not a wall that just goes straight up. It's actually at a slight angle. So I wanted to kind of replicate that, and this is what I came up with. So really, if I had a bunch of these reverse slopes, I could literally just do those going all the way across. I do have a lot of them, but I don't think I'd have nearly enough to be able to do a curved sloped wall going all the way across, and also have enough left for the mountains that I'm going to have to build actually right behind this area. So rather than do what I felt would honestly be pretty wasteful, I decided why not utilize a lot of these 2x6 dark gray bricks, because I have so many of them. And this is basically what's going to happen with it. So you can see that when you look at it, the bricks actually are at an angle. The slopes are just connected to each other like normal slopes. But they kind of lay flush with each other, and that was key. Making that as seamless as possible, because I'm going to have some sort of combination of both of those techniques, really just because the slanted bricks, for one, don't give me the ability to like build right on top of it right here, because you can see right beside it that's actually at an angle. But also this lets me know that when I'm building, I'm still kind of staying within like the Lego measurements per se, where I know, if I build a wall up, this is going to line up with anything else I decide to build somewhere else. So it's kind of hard to explain. Hopefully you guys get what I'm saying. It just keeps everything nice and still the way it should be. But yeah, so I like the combination of this. I guess the last thing about it is also it keeps it structurally sound. Like if I moved this brick This would probably fall just because it's so tall. If I turn this around, you can see the way it's constructed. It's actually sitting in there on some of those hinge bricks, which actually work pretty well for this. And I don't know, I like it. I like the technique. I like the fact that it's seamless transitioning from the brick to the ground. I didn't want to have a big gap there, so I'm actually really happy with the way that that turned out. And also the fact that it's laying flush with the slope bricks. That was super important, and now I know I have a good prototype that I'll basically have to implement going all the way down. It's not going to be right there, obviously, but on the other side of that as well. So that's a good thumbs up. That was an important thing to figure out, and now we have guidance moving forward with the MOC. Outside of this, though, there was the other angle that I had to figure out, and that was simply just figuring out where these the braces would need to be placed on that base plate in order to make sure that the hinges could make some sort of wall that could connect the two. Anyone who has built Lego and had to use like swivel hinges like these knows exactly what I'm talking about. You just got to spend a bit of time like figuring out. Some people incorporate Lego math. For whatever reason, I've never been, I don't know, proactive enough to do something like that. I'd rather just do trial and error. It's easier to see it visually for me than to kind of figure out conceptually and then to implement it. But I think it actually worked out pretty well here. You can see the walls very sturdy, and it's the exact angle that I need. Well, I don't know if it's the exact angle. I didn't do any math, but it looks right. It looks to be the exact angle that I would need. And basically what's going to happen here, this is actually where Hux is going to be standing. So obviously it's going to be a straight wall going down there. Right here, sticks out. Hux will be standing right there, addressing the rest of the first order. So to finally know how that angle is going to work out, and more specifically that it will work out, was actually super important for this MOC. And now I know I can kind of just build that up as well as the walls here. And you guys are going to see a pretty big amount of progress on that, I'd imagine, since now I know exactly what I need to do with that. One complication that I might run into is the fact that I decided to, well, I actually ended up pretty much having to use a jumper here for this front wall to sit at. So you can see that this front wall is basically, it's not on studs on the grid. It is between two studs. So that might end up being an issue whenever I build up and have to do like the ground that it sits on, because it's not going to line up exactly with the back of it. But I'm confident I'll be able to figure some sort of workaround for it. What honestly will probably end up happening is when the walls that come up here, they're probably going to actually cover the back of it. So maybe I won't even have to worry about trying to line it up exactly. If the back wall, the ground that's on the back wall just ends up covering it, then that would actually solve my issue. So I don't know, hopefully it'll all work out like that. The final thing I wanted to talk about is just the challenge of trying to keep this thing modular. So you can see the way this thing has been built, everything's on base plates that can be removed from each other. And I'm trying to remain consistent with that here. So one of the things I had to consider when actually making that shape was making sure that it could all fit on this base plate, because you can see basically where that last brace stops, that is literally at the edge of the base plate. So I wanted to make sure I could do that while still ensuring that this is where the middle of the MOC was. Basically, I wanted to have it to where the platform was in the middle of the MOC. So if you take where that red brick is, like that is the exact middle of the MOC from side to side. So a little complicated doing that, but it actually ended up working out pretty well. I'm glad that I was able to figure it out, because there are circumstances where your angles just won't work with the dimensions that you're trying to keep them in. So you have to kind of change the shape of something to get it to really play well with Lego. So glad I didn't have to change anything a ton. It's always a nice thing when the system just kind of works itself out. But really, guys, that's all I got for you this week. Let me know what you think about the progress. I am super stoked that we have some semblance of the stage that's starting to actually pop up, and I'm super confident that in these upcoming weeks you will see a ton more progress on that. So let's actually go to the outro of the video. And that's going to finish up the video this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed checking out the progress on the MOC. I'm super stoked to finally be starting that stage area. It is just really coming together. I think that By these next upcoming weeks, you guys are going to see some significant change in the MOC. For one, in terms of what I'm working on, because I've honestly, I'm running out of the areas of just like building up the platforms where the people are standing. Like there's going to be more interesting things that I have to build, which is good. I'm ready to be done with just placing those tiles. And then the stage, I think, is really just going to be a spectacle and a pretty cool part of this mod. So you guys will definitely want to stay tuned for that. Moving forward, I think that my main priority is going to be really just probably trying to finish up the platform where the people are standing. I am so ready to be done with that area. It's, I mean, it hasn't gotten dreadful yet, but it's a little monotonous to the point where I'm just like, I just want to do something else. Kind of the same way that Vardos was whenever I was working on that landing platform. So you guys will definitely see some rapid progress with that, and yeah, stay tuned. So, like I always say, guys, if you like what I do, go ahead and support the video by hitting the like button, support the channel by smashing that subscribe button, and I will be back again very soon.